As you sit there mulling a retirement in the South, approximately 1,000 people are already on their way to Florida today with all their household belongings. Should you join them? Like many baby boomers approaching retirement age and hunting for a warmer climate to call home in their golden years. But Florida isn't all about the beaches, Disney World, and the massive retirement community known as the Villages. So here are things you need to know about retiring to Florida. Number 1. Florida's not always the sunshine state. If you've visited Florida infrequently and for short periods of time, you probably don't know the full scope of Florida weather. Thunderstorms are frequent and intense. And the 2022 lightning capital of the U.S. is located in the Sunshine State. Florida ranked first in lightning density, seeing more lightning in 2022 than any other community in the United States, according to WGCU News. And Florida is often in the bullseye for hurricanes. Earlier this year, Hurricane Idalia made landfall in Florida's Big Bend as a Category 3 hurricane, bringing winds of 125 miles per hour and feet of storm surge. As it made its way through Georgia and the Carolinas, it left around 300,000 customers without power. Total damage caused by the storm is still being assessed. Preliminary estimates of the damage put it between $9.3 billion, according to UBS, and $20 billion, according to AccuWeather. This likelihood of harsh weather can affect the financial benefits of moving to Florida. Florida residents end up paying a lot more in insurance in order to protect their property, and there are lots of sunshine and warm temperatures. Number 2. Homes are in short supply in Florida. Sure, you can find luxurious waterfront homes for $1 million or more in many Florida communities, but the average Florida home value is $392,922, up 0.7% over the past year. The average United States home value is $348,539. Up 1.1% over the past year. Florida, like elsewhere in the country, is low on inventory in this seller's market. Florida Realtors chief economist Dr. Brad O'Connor said inventory is tight and notes that Florida's current housing market is a strong seller's market, with fewer new listings and a very tight inventory, active listings, particularly for single-family existing homes. According to Redfin, in September 2023, there were 143,865 homes for sale in Florida, up 3.4% year over year. The number of newly listed homes was 41,113 and up 12% year over year. And thanks to low inventory, 14.9% of homes in Florida sold above list price. Number 3. Florida's tourists can slow you down. Ever since you were a munchkin, you knew Florida as a tourist destination. If you visited Walt Disney World when you were a kid and when it first opened, you marveled at the crowds. As a resident, you'll probably only be annoyed by them. Approximately 137.6 million tourists visited Florida in 2022, setting a record for the highest visitation in state history, according to Visit Florida. In 2019, Florida had 131.42 million tourists, and the state has had more than 100 million visitors a year from 2010 to 2019, converging on the state's famous theme parks, beaches, and destination spots, such as the Keys and Everglades National Park. The high season, when the snowbirds, holiday travelers, and spring breakers all converge on Florida, lasts roughly from mid-December to mid-April. There's also summer season, lasting from mid-June to mid-August, when the kids are out of school and summer vacationers hit Florida. That makes for a lot of people on the road, an annoyance to the locals when they need to run errands. Number 4. Florida goes boomer. Expect lots of company if you retire to Florida. For the first time since 1957, Florida has become the nation's fastest growing state after decades of rapid population growth, reports the U.S. Census Bureau's 2022 population estimates. Between 2021 and 2022, Florida's population increased by 1.9%, reaching 22,244,823. And out of all Florida residents, 21.6% are age 65 and older, looking over their shoulders at the newbies heading their way. Number 5. Florida's a lot less taxing. Moving to the Sunshine State could save you a lot of money in taxes. Florida, one of our 10 most tax-friendly states for retirees, has no state income tax. That means no state taxes on Social Security benefits, pensions, IRAs, 401ks, and other retirement income. It also has no inheritance tax or estate tax. But snowbirds who maintain a second home in a colder state can't just tap their heels together to establish residency in Florida for tax purposes. You'll need to show that you spend more than half the year, 183 days, in Florida. Florida. But don't expect state tax auditors to take your word for it. For starters, keep a diary or log showing the number of days you spend in each state during the year. Number 6. Life's not always a beach in Florida. There's often a major misconception about Florida as a retirement destination. Many think the state is one big beach, an easy-to-reach beach. Not so. Those world-famous theme parks? They're in Orlando, in the middle of the state, an hour or so car ride to the beach. Each of Florida's metro areas has its own vibe. The east and west coasts of Florida are very different as the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic Ocean. North Florida features vast stretches of rolling hills and countryside. Number 7. Florida sunshine can take a toll on your health. The sun on exposed skin was dangerous then and is dangerous now, especially if you're a tenderfoot moving from the Midwest or Northeast to year-round sunshine in tropical Florida. Sunburn can cause premature wrinkling and uneven skin coloring, and too many sunburns or too much sun will cause your skin's texture to change. The skin can become tough and leathery, according to the Florida Institute of Neuroscience. You may also notice more wrinkles. The sun can also cause brown, red, yellow, or gray spots in the skin called sunspots. And the most serious result of too much sun, of course, is skin cancer. Your risk for getting skin cancer increases the more sun exposure and sunburns you have. Sun worshippers are urged to stop sunbathing, avoid the sun between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. when the sun's rays are most damaging, and use broad-spectrum sunscreens. And when you are on the beach, sit under an umbrella or some other shaded protection from the sun. Number 8. Scammers like Florida as much as retirees. You can run, but you can't hide from scammers. You can also retire, move to Florida, and you still can't hide from scammers. That's because the Sunshine State ranks number 4 in the U.S. for fraud, with 1,446 reports per 100,000 residents in 2022, according to the Federal Trade Commission's Consumer Sentinel Network report. Among the most common scams in Florida are debt collection, identity theft, and imposter scams. The latter is a particular scourge for older folks who might become more susceptible to deception as they age and cognitive skills decline. Scammers take on many guises, from romantic interests to government officials, in an attempt to talk would-be victims out of their money and personal information. And the stakes get higher the older you get. Although younger people reported losing money to fraud more often than older individuals, when people age 70 or older fell victim to fraud, the median loss was much higher. In 2022, the median fraud loss for victims ages 70 to 79 was $1,000, and for victims 80 and older, it was $1,674. The best expert advice is to hang up or hit delete if a stranger calls or emails out of the blue asking you to verify information about your bank account, credit cards, social security benefits, Medicare coverage, tax returns, and so on. Number 9. Florida has lots of creepy crawly things. Florida is its very own ecosystem, and the state's various creatures may do more than make your skin crawl. They might also eat into your budget. For instance, dealing with termites is just part of the routine for Florida homeowners. Of the top 50 U.S. cities with the most termites in 2021, Florida scores 6: Miami, Tampa, Orlando, West Palm Beach, Jacksonville, and Fort Myers, according to pest control company Orkin. A termite inspection by a pro ranges from free to $350, and the cost for treatment of termites in a 500 square foot house ranges from $1,250 to $5,000. Then there are the rats, on the beach, in the trees, and perhaps on your roof too. Rat control can cost homeowners upward of $300 a year. As a Floridian, you'll also have to keep an eye out for alligators, panthers, and pythons. Florida has an estimated 1.25 million alligators of the approximately 5 million in the U.S., and you might encounter them slinking across a golf course, gliding in backyard swimming pools, or skirmishing with a horse. Number 10. You'll need plenty of insurance in Florida. The risk of hurricanes makes insuring your home in Florida much more complex and expensive than it is in many other areas. Expect to pay a higher deductible for hurricane damage, generally 5% to 10% of your coverage amount for damages caused by a hurricane. Also, try to keep enough money in your emergency fund to cover those potential expenses. It's important to find out about a house's insurability before buying it, so you don't end up with annual premiums that are several $1,000s more than you were expecting to pay. In addition to a standard home inspection, get a wind mitigation inspection before buying a home. The inspector will check for special construction features that help a home withstand high winds. You may also consider getting additional windstorm coverage. If you live in certain flood zones, your mortgage company will require you to get flood insurance. Floods aren't covered by a standard homeowner's policy, but you can get coverage from the National Flood Insurance Program. You may also be able to find flood coverage from private insurers, which may have higher limits than the federal program. Ask your insurance agent about your options, or find out about private insurers selling flood coverage at the Florida Office of Insurance Regulations Flood Insurance Resources page.